Hello and welcome to this very special episode of Boxer Highlights. Jeremy speaking alongside Caitlin Matta and the newly elected Mayor Bill Carpenter. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Katie, and thanks for inviting me on to Boxer Highlights.
So, Mr. Carpenter, as graduate of Marshfield High School, what made you decide to move to Brockton?
I'm glad you didn't mention what year I graduated from Marshfield High School. I moved to Brockton back in 1986, so I've been here for 27 years. So I actually consider myself to be a Brocktonian. I think somewhere around 20 years you earn your Brockton credentials. So, I ended up in Brockton by accident. At the time, I had a young family. I got a job in Abington and looking to purchase my first house, and figured out that by going just over the line into the east side of Brockton, I was able to afford our first home. And moved in, and then as I had more kids and your kids start growing up, you get deep roots in the community, and quite honestly, I fell in love with the city. I love Brockton. I love living here. All of my kids are still here, and I've just really grown to love the city. So I understand there are a lot of native Brocktonians who claim this lifelong Brocktonian thing, and I get that, but I think that there are a lot more of us nowadays who came to Brockton from somewhere else and embrace and adapt and fall in love with the city, and I guess I would be one of those.
That's great. So what made you decide to run for mayor of the city of Brockton?
Well, it's kind of an evolution. It's funny, we were talking about this yesterday because Friday night's the inaugural ball, and I had to write a little letter to go in the program book, and they wanted me to write a little bit about running for mayor, and it evolved from serving on the school committee. So 4 years ago, I ran for school committee for the first time from Ward 5 over on the east side, and then was reelected 2 years later. So I've had a front row seat in city government for the past 4 years, and so it continued to pique my interest as to that I just felt as though I could do a better job, and felt that we needed changes in the city. So I never intended to run for school committee, and then next thing you know, a couple of my friends approached me and said, would you consider running for mayor? And I thought about it for a couple of months, and I spoke to a lot of my friends and family, and I realized that there were a lot of people who were willing to work very hard to help me. So we kicked off the campaign, and it was a great experience, but it was a long 8 months. It was 8 months of working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, working a regular job, campaigning nights and weekends, and but it was a great experience, and now I am in the mayor's office, and we're working very hard every day on implementing our plans for the future of the city.
Speaking of your campaign, I heard this and I just had to ask, who came up with this creative slogan, "It takes a carpenter to build a city"?
Yeah, we had 1 or 2 signs out around the city that said that. I like the slogan too, and it did catch on. So we kind of just my campaign team and myself sitting in a room and trying to work on a slogan. We figured we wanted to somehow play off of the word carpenter, and so that people remember. The challenge when you're running as a challenger, at the time I decided to run a year ago now, one of the things when I asked people, what do you think my chances would be? And I remember one of my advisors said to me, Bill, you've been active in a lot of things. A lot of people know who you are, but everyone knows who the mayor is. And so I realized that we were going to have to really market and build name recognition. So we thought the slogan would be an important part of building name recognition. And it worked, because I can't tell you how many places I go, and to this day, people hit me with the slogan right away. So we were just working on different variations of slogans off the word carpenter, and someone came up with "It takes a carpenter to build a city," and we all looked around each other and said, "Yep, that's it." So I like it. I'm not sure what we're going to use next time, but it was very popular and got a lot of play, and even in the program book for the inaugural ball, you'll see that a couple times.
Yeah, it was great. How important do you think social media is to campaigning?
It's not only important to campaigning, it's important to governing now. And I think it's one of the biggest changes that people will be able to see right away in my administration is we will be embracing social media. I think it's an important tool to communicate with people now. I just started tweeting the other day, so the mayor's on Twitter now, so you can follow me at at Mayor Bill Carp. So you can follow me on Twitter, find out what I'm doing every day. It impacted my decision when I hired Newbie Rateau to be my director of communications. I was looking for someone young that had skills with social media. That was one of the many things I was looking for, because I realized that social media is a little bit generational. People my age tend to be on Facebook. People your age tend to be on Twitter or Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. But one of the things I'm really excited about is somewhere around March 1st, we'll be rolling out a brand new website for the city. Oh. And one of the things you'll see on that website will be links to various social media. So, and another thing we're doing with the website that kind of goes along with social media, and people, almost everyone now having a smartphone, an Android, some type of handheld device, is we're going to add an emergency management feature to the website so that, because people don't have home telephones anymore. I don't have one anymore. Everyone in my house has their own phone. We don't need a home telephone. So in terms of emergency management, how does the city communicate with the people who live there in an emergency situation? Well, we will have, you'll be able with one click on our new website to sign up either your cell number or your email address to get emergency notifications. So our goal is to have thousands and thousands of these so that whenever there is any type of emergency in the city, people can get a notification right on their phone or on their email.
Can you explain to me the rush of emotion that went through your body when you found out that you're the newly elected mayor of Brockton?
It was more emotional than I thought it would be. So it's kind of hard to put into context for you because you would have to. It was emotional among myself and my inner core, my main team of campaign workers who were with me at the time, because everyone was at Joe Angelo's where our results party was going to be, and there was a handful of us, and by a handful, a dozen, 15 of us at the campaign headquarters getting the numbers. And so what you do with the campaign, there are 28 precincts that report their figures from the city of Brockton. So we had our own people running around to the various precincts as soon as the ballots were counted, calling in the figures. And by hand, we're getting the calls and the texts, and we're tabulating, and we know it's very, very close as the different precincts are coming in. And we were still missing one or two precincts, or we were missing one precinct, I think. And we had me trailing by 42 votes. So the official results hadn't been in yet, but for about 15 or 20 minutes, we thought we lost. Yeah. And we thought we lost very close. And then we got the call from City Hall. We had someone at City Hall waiting for the Elections Commission to post the official results. And when they called and told us we had won by 55, we had, it wasn't just the emotion, but it was the swing of emotions, Jeremy, because you go from thinking, God, 8 months of our lives and we lose by 42 votes, to, wow, we did it, So it was very emotional. So I kid around with people and say there was a lot of crying that night. We just went from, tears of sorrow to tears of joy. And then it was amazing when I got to the results party. I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds. There was like 500 people there waiting for me. And wow. Literally I get out of the car and people came running out of the building out into the parking lot. I couldn't even get out of the car. So yeah, it was an experience I'll never forget. Never forget. And I hope to win a few more elections before we're done, but I don't think there'll ever be another one like this one. Yeah.
Can you explain to us what makes you different from prior mayors? Like, what are you planning to do differently, not only for the city, but for your legacy also?
Yep. Only been in for a week, so not really thinking too much about the legacy yet. But no, I think there are a lot of things different about me. I imagine every mayor comes in with their own perspective. I think we're all shaped by our life's experiences. And so I'm sure that there are aspects to me that are different than others just because of experiences during my life. I've raised 6 children here in the city, so I certainly have a lot of history as a parent, a lot of connection with the schools. I've had a child with a drug problem. I've lived that firsthand for almost 10 years now. So I know what it's like to have a member of your immediate family that has an addiction problem and all the things that can do to a family and how important it is. I have a son that's a police officer, so I'm certainly very familiar with the issues we have in the city around gangs and gun violence. So I would think that I'm probably very focused on working with our young people to try to keep them off of drugs and out of gangs, and that absolutely be one of the primary focus of my administration. But I think there are a lot of things that make me different. I'm not from the traditional political machine. We've got 11 city councilors. Not one of them supported me in the campaign publicly. So I'm an outsider. I didn't have the support of the people that usually run these things. And I got to tell you something I'm really proud of, and that is the diversity that I had in my campaign. I don't think any candidate for mayor has ever had the support of so many different communities within our city, because this is what Brockton is today, and this is what should be the strength of our city, is the diversity. And I had tremendous support in both the Haitian American and Cape Verdean American communities. I had tremendous support. And I think one of the great results of that is I brought hundreds and hundreds of people into the campaigning for me that had never been involved in a political campaign in their life. I had a lot of people vote for me who had never voted in their life. I had a lot of people who had only voted once or twice for Obama and had never voted other than for president. So I'm really proud of those aspects, and I really feel it's a challenge to me now to live up to the hard work that the people who got me there did. And I think it motivates me to do well every day, and I will change the way we operate city government, and you will see significant changes. I think if you look at the staff that I put together, I have 6 people working for me. One is a volunteer, but when you look at that group of 6 people, 4 of them are bilingual in Cape Verdean Creole and 2 are bilingual in Haitian Creole. So I mean, I think I made a conscious effort not just to attract high quality people, but to also recognize the fact that Brockton is a multilingual city nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to serve everyone who lives in the city. And so it will be different. And it's only been a week. If we do this interview again in a year, I hope you'll be asking me about a lot of the changes that you've seen take place in the city over the past year.
That's amazing. So as a recent committee member, do you still plan on being active in the school committee?
Very active. Matter of fact, I was at a school committee subcommittee meeting last night that mayors normally never go to, but I was chair of that committee for the past 2 years, and there are a couple of things that we had started working on towards the tail end of last year that I wanted to be there to make sure that I see through. So for folks that aren't familiar, the mayor sits as the chair of the school committee and actually has a vote. Now, the last couple of mayors have never voted, but some mayors in the past have. Mayor Units voted, on occasion. Mayor Farwell voted a lot because, like myself, he had come directly from the school committee to the mayor's office. So, yeah, that is one of the, you asked me earlier, what are the differences? That's one of the differences, too. I think I will be much more engaged with the schools. I mean, it's why I'm here. I think that having the best public school system in the world is one of the keys to Brockton's future and our success. And people like to say to me, well, Brockton has a great urban school system. And my goal is for people to get the word urban out of that phrase. Because they say, well, you've got a good graduation rate for an urban school system. I say, I want the same graduation rate as Oliver Ames. I don't want a different standard for us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why Brockton High School has been so successful, because we've developed a culture here where everyone is held to high standards and there are no excuses. Everyone's got circumstances in their life at times, but the opportunity is here. The greatest education in the world is available here, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting the greatest education in the world here. So I'm very committed to the schools and will be very involved. And I already chaired my first school committee meeting, and I put them on notice that I will use my vote from time to time, particularly when it might affect the outcome.
What advice do you have for students achieving high goals?
Boy, I wish it was really easy just to come up with that, because I guess everyone's in different circumstances. But the opportunity is here. It's stay focused. Don't get pressured into going towards doing things that aren't good for you. I don't want to see kids getting involved with gangs. I don't want to see kids using drugs. It's easy to say do your homework. Parents have been saying do your homework for 100 years. But just appreciate what a great opportunity you have here. And I think when you're young, and I do actually remember when I was your age. It was a long, long time ago, but I do remember it. So I think that you don't realize when you're a kid, when you're in middle school or high school, you make decisions that affect the rest of your life. You make decisions that affect the outcome of your life. Whether you go to college or not is going to have a big effect on how your life turns out. Whether you graduate from college or not, whether you graduate or not from here. So I don't think you realize it when you're young, but you're making decisions that are going to determine how the rest of your life is going to play out. So I just want to do whatever we can do to help you guys make good decisions.
So what do you think are the most important issues you will face as mayor?
Well, there are a lot of them, but certainly our two biggest challenges in Brockton are to reduce crime and to get the city's economy going again. Getting this downtown developed again, and I'm sure that I'm the fourth or fifth mayor in a row who said they were going to do it. I plan to do it. But it's the city's economy as a whole. If you drive on Main Street from Avon down to West Bridgewater, how many vacant stores, commercial buildings, business properties that are, half of them are vacant. So our economy here in the city is really hurting. And so people talk about jobs. Well, we need jobs. Well, what we need is to create this environment where businesses want to come here, because the jobs are created by the businesses. You've got to build businesses here, and we also have to encourage entrepreneurs to start businesses here, that there's a great opportunity to start a business here. So, part of our focus will be working towards people not much older than you. I want to get a tech hub established. I want an incubator tech hub down in downtown where young people working online that have got good ideas and are entrepreneurs want to develop businesses. I want to provide the support system that they can do that at and launch their businesses here. I also want to bring a lot of support services to small businesses in the city, family-owned businesses. We're launching a program right now, partnering with Google, where we're going to be able to bring free websites to small businesses for the next few months in the city with a year of hosting. So I'm hoping we can get into a lot of small businesses and help them by getting them set up with a website and a year of free hosting.
So in your inauguration speech, you mentioned you wanted to clean up the trash and graffiti around the city.
So you watched the speech?
Yes.
Okay. Glad to hear that.
I actually did. And how do you plan on doing this?
It's part of a bigger picture. I talk a lot about safe neighborhoods, and we have to recreate safe neighborhoods in the city. So, obviously, law enforcement is probably the high-profile leading part of it. I've got to get some of the drug dealers and gang leaders out of the neighborhoods so the good people who live there can feel comfortable in their neighborhoods again. But then I look at that, the next piece of that is right behind law enforcement has to be neighborhood associations where people who live in the neighborhoods are engaged in controlling their neighborhoods and have relationships with the police and the mayor and the other city agencies. And so then part of that means bringing in effective code enforcement. We have codes we can enforce. And it's critical to bringing neighborhoods back, not just for property values, but for people to have pride in the neighborhood that they live in. So absolutely, it's junk cars and it's trash and debris. It's dumpsters being properly maintained. It's graffiti. It's broken windows. We've got to come in and make sure property owners maintain their property properly. And I'll work with property owners first, but for those who just don't get the message and don't want to do it, then we'll use code enforcement to enforce it, to get the neighborhoods cleaned up. It's critical. It even affects people's impression when they drive through the city on our main streets. They're riding down the street and they see vacant abandoned buildings and overgrown grass and junk cars and graffiti. They think the whole city looks like that, which isn't true. We've got great neighborhoods in the city, but that creates the perception from people who don't live in the city. And then to the people who live within a neighborhood, that I want people to have pride in the neighborhood, no matter what neighborhood it is in the city. I want people to be able to have pride in their neighborhoods. So I think we need to develop neighborhood associations, and we need to clean them up. So will be bringing, within the month, I'll be bringing forward an ordinance change to the City Council that will add graffiti to the city's nuisance ordinance to give us more teeth to enforce compelling property owners to remove graffiti when they have it. And I understand the property owner is the victim in the crime, they're not the perpetrator, But I need responsible property owners, because the only way you stop the spread of graffiti is by constantly removing it. And something gets tagged, you remove it. And they tag it tomorrow, you remove it again. And you just remove it as many times as they tag it. That's the only way you can fight graffiti in a city.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all these things that you want to change, which one are you looking forward to changing the most?
Reducing crime and making the city safer, because I think that was the #1 issue. I knocked on doors for 7.5 months. I walked every neighborhood in the city, and it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're in, people are worried about crime in the city, particularly violent crime. And we will be taking some new approaches that I believe will make a difference. So it's, you kind of, with this, there's a short-term plan and there's a long-term plan. I mean, we've got to do some saturated law enforcement right up front. We've got to send a message that, you know, I will not tolerate guns and drugs in our city. I'm just not going to tolerate it. I don't care how many times I have to arrest you, we'll keep arresting you. It's not profiling, it's not picking on anybody. The only people I intend to pick on are people who are carrying illegal guns and selling drugs. And I don't care where they were born, where their grandparents were born. If you sell drugs in my city, you carry an illegal gun in my city, I want the police to arrest you. At the same token, though, I think I have to look at long-term solutions to prevent that from happening in the first place. So that's why I want to bring anti-gang and anti-drug curriculum into the elementary schools, because I think if kids are making decisions in the 6th and 7th grade, then we need to be talking to them as a community, families, churches, schools. We need to be talking to kids in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade to help them make better decisions when they're 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We've got to offer better services to people coming back to Brockton out of jail. You know, the majority of the people down in the county jail don't have a high school diploma. We've got to get people with a diploma, with marketable job skills, a place to live, get them, if they've got children, get them re-engaged with their kids. I support a drug court to help get people into treatment instead of jail. If addiction is what's causing them to commit crimes, they're never going to stop committing crimes unless we can help them with the addiction problem. So I think there are a lot of supports that I really want to put in place that I think are big parts of the long-term solution. But I do, to get back to answering your question, I think my biggest immediate challenge is to restore safety to the city, to make people feel like Brockton is a safe place to visit, and it's a safe place to move to with your family, it's a safe place to open a business. And that's the biggest challenge, because I don't know how we fix all the other stuff until we fix that perception of safety first.
All right, is there anything else that you would like to add on?
Well, I want to say thank you for the invitation. It's exciting. I'm hoping to engage young people more in the city, and I look forward to being very involved here at Brockton High School with all the schools. When you see cities that make big turnarounds, education is a big piece of it. Families move to a city because they want a good education for their children. Your young people succeed in life when they get a good education. And in a place like Brockton, public school education is so important, because the public schools are what give all young people a level playing field. What gives, you know, this country is about opportunity. And public school education is what gives everybody the same opportunity. If we do a great job, every kid coming out of here from Brockton High School with a diploma has the same opportunity. Every kid that comes in the 9th grade has the same opportunity. So I think that's a huge responsibility. And I want young people to succeed in life. And one of our big challenges that comes off of this is I want to get people like you into colleges, educations, careers, but I want you to come back and live in Brockton. I think right now a lot of young people in their 20s, after they get out of college, they're not all coming back to Brockton. I want our young, talented, educated professionals to come back and live in the city and raise their families here. And it's a big goal, and I think that's another piece of getting our city turned around. But thank you for having me.
All right, and thank you for coming.
All
This
right.
concludes today's episode of Boxer Highlights.